Hey there, welcome back. This is gonna be a lot of fun. It is all gas, no brakes around here. I find myself still hungry and passionate about 3D printing and the additive manufacturing industry. In fact, 2024 is the year that this dream I've had for YouTube comes true. And in order to tell you what that is and what this means for the future of the channel, I have to take you back to where it all started. Here in my office at home, I worked for Adobe at the time, and it was 2015, and I decided to start a channel called 3D Printing Nerd. And this is where I filmed things. This was where my first review happened, the Dremel Idea Builder. This right over here was where the G-Max printed the massive hairy lion that went viral on YouTube. And right over here was when I introduced the world to the CR10 and my thoughts on it. It was a lot of fun filming things here in my office, but as you can tell, it gets full fast. And in order to mitigate that, I had to move things right out there. Right outside my office is this room that's upstairs in my house, and you might recognize that wall behind me. That's the wooden wall that I built. It originally started out as a television behind me because it was hanging on the wall, and then after that there were some sweet shelves that held prints that I and the community members had done, but eventually I built that wall, and it's been that way ever since. You have to remember, out here is when the bench made its debut. My father built it for me, and we brought it up these stairs and we assembled it, and it was wonderful to have. In fact, I even 3D printed some drawer pulls for it that I designed myself. And don't forget, up here is where the 400% scale OpenRC F1 project came to be. And that's when I showed it off on the bench and went through the electronics and how we were gonna power it, and you might still see it again someday. I also remember printing a massive Space Needle, Seattle Space Needle, that I kind of put, I think it was like right over here. And then, oh, who could forget the Robo R2 self-destructing? And when I expanded out of that room, it wasn't just here that I filmed. In the garage downstairs, I brought you the Raise 3D N2 Plus. I did my really fun Ultimaker 2 Plus review where I showcased how the light worked. How could I forget? Joe Prusa stopped by and helped me unbox a Prusa Mark II kit in my garage. I've also filmed in the shop, in the backyard. That's where I showed you a massive Part Daddy print. I stepped on one of Maker's Muse's most wonderful creations that I had 3D printed. I filmed in the kitchen. We made those hamster food containers and the chip clips. I filmed in the bathroom where I made a frame around a paint chip that became art. We even filmed in the backyard when I tested 3D Gloop against the full Joel. Filming in all of these spaces around the house is a lot of fun, but invariably I'm filming when I should either be eating or asleep, or I'm sacrificing more family time, or I'm telling everybody to be quiet when I hit record, or the dogs are barking at a package being delivered. I needed to find a new space to move everything to so that I could film when I wanted to without upsetting the status quo. That's when we landed here, November of 2019, so long ago. This studio space is on the second story of a retail establishment. In its prior life, it was a massage studio. It's 1,000 poorly laid out square feet that I've tried to take advantage of to the best of my ability. We started out over there behind camera with these 3 windows in the back and a big blue light kind of illuminating behind them. And over there, Mark Rhodes and I showed you a 3D printed record player. And actually that's where I got to show you the E2 from Raise 3D. And then we filmed over there with a purple background, and I got to show you the CR6 SE. And that's where Fix Some Dude was born because of the massive Star Wars prints I did on the $38,000 3D printer. And don't forget, Naomi Wu sent me the 3D print mill, and I got to show you over there. Then we went to that side, and I showed you Hoverwood when a Bobby Duke and Hacksmith tweet lined up and a model was created, and it was glorious. We also did some 3D printed speakers on that side, and they still sound wonderful. Finally, we settled with this view right here. It's the view where Courtney and I got to talk about filaments that one time. I made a cheese ball launcher, and I showcased a Voron built by a 14-year-old who was trying to turn it into a business once his schooling was over. This space was cool, but I found that we were outgrowing it and busting at the seams. So eventually we found ourselves in a house in Lynwood, Washington. My family affectionately called it the Hoffice, the house office. Hoffice. The Hoffice was 3,300 poorly laid out square feet that we tried to take advantage of to the best of our abilities. That's where we built the wood wall that you can see behind me. That's where we shot a rocket off in the backyard. 2, 1. I stood on a table and I ran around the backyard like an idiot. I also told you it was the end of the Ender 7. And I 3D printed some amazing lightsabers in resin on the Formlabs machines. It was at the Hoffice that I introduced the world to the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon. But in the end, it was not right. The Hoffice itself was a house, but the electrical needs of a 3D printing show were a little bit greater than what it could provide. Also, I hated having to climb a narrow staircase to take machines upstairs. And so I cut our losses and we got out of there pretty quick. So we packed up everything at the Hoffice and we moved it back to here. And this was the only location. Now, for 3D printing nerd, this was the studio. We actually moved that wall in, and that was a treat. And it was back here that I set up the Prusa print farm behind the wall right there. And I did some printing for my Etsy shop, but I also did commission printing for Daniel Boyer's Steam Connection and her Etgar robots. And I actually did some parts for the 3D Chameleon. And of course, the print farm came in handy for projects that I wanted to do. Oh, and I installed the rep rack over there, where I've housed lots of really wonderful filaments that not only were used for things, but seen on camera. And I lit them with a light, and I love the look of it. And this has been the set ever since. I've had some amazing guests come and visit me on set to do really cool stuff. And I've also featured some amazing projects, absolutely amazing projects from this desk. But through all the machines and the materials and the models and the fun that we've had here, it's still busting at the seams. I've still filled this space way beyond capacity. It's 1,000 square feet, but on the second story, up a narrow staircase, it's not conducive to the workflow that I've always wanted. And that leads me to some really cool prints that I have to show you. This is the PCBWay logo. They have gotten involved in a big way and given us this enormous opportunity to level up what we've been doing and realize this crazy dream that I've had since the beginning. So I thought in celebration of that, I would print their logo. I wanted to make it bigger, so I did. This was printed on the Prusa XL. I love the look of it. A huge thanks to PCBWay for getting involved and helping us realize this dream we've had since the beginning. And so I think what we should do is print this logo even bigger. That's right. For a bigger print, we're gonna need a much bigger space. A bigger space for bigger projects, bigger builds, bigger guests, all powered by PCBWay. I can't wait to show you. It's a dream realized, and it's coming soon. And if you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more. Fight for a cause you believe in. Realize all your dreams. And as always, high five.